Welcome to Kenpo Conversations with Cigar with Scott Higgins here at Yosemite National Park. We just hiked Gale Lakes Trail, really beautiful. We're up in over 10,000 feet of elevation. So, Scott, tell us about the magic of Alpacas Kenpo. Here, surrounded in this beautiful magic of nature.
Yeah, it's really beautiful up here. It's been, we're at 10,000 feet, something like that. I was just thinking with all the internet and everything, I was thinking back that my first experiences with martial arts and at Parker's Kenpo. I started off in, as many of us do, in the Tracy system. That was my first exposure. Well, no, my first exposure was Bill Ryasaki in North Hollywood back in '71 when I was in high school. But I found Tracy's, and I was a little older, and I think the interesting thing was they had techniques. But the thing was that when I came to Ed Parker, I saw there was a huge difference between Tracy's and Ed Parker's. And I saw a lot of the techniques that were very similar to Ed Parker's, the techniques that I was doing. And I later found out they were students of Ed Parker and with their own way. But what I was thinking about was the kind of the magic, that has been lost. And the reason I say that is, when I came into that studio, I realized that I was in the real deal, the real place to really learn, real martial arts, really self-defense, and I could grow as a martial artist. I did a lot of fighting. But when you're fighting, you only get so high. You can only get so far in that. In the development. If you want to pursue other things, and when I came to that studio, that was the first time I ever heard about the principles and the concepts of self-defense. In the other schools, they never mentioned anything like that. So for me, it was magical. When I walked into that school, there was no internet. There was no other place to get that information except somebody who knew that information. And I think that's, unfortunately, with the advent of the internet and nowadays, people can just flip on a channel and pick any technique, and they can learn all kinds of different techniques in the Parker system and any other system. But unfortunately, it's two-dimensional, and it's not three-dimensional. And so, when I walked in there, there wasn't anything. There was no other place for me to get the information except the guys that had it. And it was so exciting, and you couldn't, you had to, whatever you got, you had to go and practice that. You couldn't get anything more until you practiced what you had. And I remember I'd be in the private rooms, and Jeff would come in, and he'd ask me, what are you working on? And I said, I'm doing this, and we work on it and talk about it and figure it out. And group class would come, and they'd be talking about these concepts and principles, and what makes this work.
Tell us a little bit more about that. What is it that make it work?
Well, you talk about the physics, the physiology, all that stuff. You talk about torque. You talk about marriage of gravity, and in developing your base, And they, like the first technique I saw was shielding hammer. I think I saw Muhammad do it. But you step back, and you have this in this position, and all it comes from the ground. It comes from the ground up. It comes from your feet, and then your legs and your hips, and your upper body, your torso, and your shoulders, and your arm, and then your hand, and then all of this stuff is bang, that explosiveness that you can develop. I never saw anything like that, and that's utilizing the principles, because you're understanding the principles of torque, the principles of American gravity, the principles of momentum, and those things that I never heard before. But so that was for me. I mean, it was magic, man. It was magic, and I think it's really unfortunate. I feel for the new people coming up that they don't have that. They just don't. They haven't encountered that. They have. They'll have guys that they'll share the movement with them, but really, as far as understanding and really grasping the real meat of the technique, a lot of people don't. Some people can do it intellectually, but talking about it, but to do it physically and to really feel that, it's a different thing. It's a different thing, it was kind of the end. I think it was the end of the old school training, that you had to find a teacher and that would teach you. And luckily, I was at a school that there were many good teachers, and Mr. Parker was in and out of there, and Larry was the manager at the time, and he was doing a lot of the group classes, but all the guys, an amazing amount of people that came through that West LA school. In Pasadena, with Frank and Tommy and Paul and all those guys, really, it was a magic time before internet, is what I guess.
So what do you recommend people do today to re-find some of that magic?
That's a good question. It's I was only able to do one or two techniques. I'd always learn it. When I came there, I wasn't exactly. I'd separated from the service, and I was sort of roaming around and didn't really have any place. I was kind of looking for work, and so financially I wasn't quite together. But I think I paid for group classes, and I did that. And in my training, my experience is I've never got any private lessons from anybody, but I would ask, and I would watch and observe, and I would ask a lot of questions, and I would see, and I would look at a lot of different guys, and I would see how they're doing it, how they're generating that power, and what are those, what those aspects of what principles are they actually employing, when they execute these techniques, and I would suggest to, it's not quantity, it's quality, and then you don't have to know absolutely every extension on every technique, but if you have a good solid base of what the motion is, of what that it really doesn't matter. A guy can only hit you so many ways, you can only be attacked, we only have 2 arms and 2 legs, but you don't throw weapons in there, that's another aspect. But if you can take a couple of techniques, just isolate a couple of techniques and really look at that and really take them apart. Look at them. What is exactly going on from point A to point B? See? Each of those movements is a technique. This is a technique. The technique of the hand closed, the technique, the proper angles, that's a technique. Where you go from there, that is a technique. See? And there's these techniques that are within the technique. And people miss all that. They think the technique is one entire movement system, but it's not. Each of these things is a technique. Each of these, in and of itself should stand alone, should be able to stand alone by itself, put somewhere else. You can take this motion, this could be a block, this could be a strike, this could be, any number of things. So that's why I say that each technique within the technique needs to stand by itself. It can't be, just a, just you blow through the technique and that's it. That's not what martial arts is about. That's certainly not what Ed Parker's Kenpo was about. And so,
I guess it's slow down to go faster.
Slow down, and really, and look at these things. Pick a technique, take it apart, rearrange it even. Put it back together. But look at it. Look at the sequence of the motion. Why are you going from here to here, from here to here, from here to here? What's going on? What are the dynamics with that? What weapons are being changed? You change wrenching weapons all the time. You go from a closed fist to an open hand, back to a finger technique. Maybe a back knuckle. So you're interchanging all these weapons very quickly. But again, all of these are techniques. They're not just, five swords is not just a bunch of moves. These are techniques put together. This hand sword, in and of itself, can be devastating. So combine that with the body, combine that with the footwork. Again with the momentum, torque. Marriage of gravity. All of these things that you're trying to incorporate within that. And sometimes in each technique that's there, it has to be you're having a principle. You're applying a certain principle, and then you're applying another principle or multiple principles. So that's, but that's how I was just thinking about that. I feel kind of sad for the guys because when I walked in there, man, it was magic. I was watching, Larry would be teaching class, and the guys who lined up and seeing this stuff, and you couldn't go to the internet, you couldn't go anywhere, and you had to watch, you had to pay attention, and you had to listen to what was being said, ask questions, and then apply it, and with yourself, and be brutally honest with yourself. Bruce Lee used to say that, to express yourself honestly, not lying to oneself, it's a very difficult thing to do, and martial arts is not an easy thing, but, I think I find there's freedom in it for me, that freedom of expression, I can be myself and apply these things and be honest. Anybody can wear any kind of rank you want, whatever you want to rank, put on. It's up to you, but you step on the mat, it's going to be very obvious what level you're at. But I was just thinking about that. It's just the magic of that of Ed Parker's Kenpo when I came in there. It was just, man, really miss it. Really miss Mr. Parker too. So.
Thank you so much for sharing.